Hi, welcome back to Jen's Jungle and welcome back to my complete Degu care series. And today we're going to talk about something that's really important and every Degu owner should know and everyone should be aware of before they choose to get Degus. And that is common health problems in Degus. Now, I want to be very clear about something before I get into this video, and that this video is not veterinary advice, it's not professional advice. And this is simply based off my own experiences and my own research. This isn't meant to treat Degus, this is just meant to give Degu owners an idea of what health problems they may face, what to look out for, and maybe some tips on how to prevent these illnesses. But overall, if you have any concerns about your Degu's health, always seek a specialist exotic vet's advice. These little guys can hide their illnesses really well because they are prey animals, and it's really important to keep a close eye on them, and any concerns, get them vet care immediately. But that said, I do hope this video will be useful just to give an idea about Degu health issues. Degus are amazing, social, active little creatures, but they do have some unique health needs and challenges. So let's just go through some of the common ones. Degus, just like guinea pigs, rabbits, hamsters, have teeth that never stop growing. If they aren't worn down properly, their teeth can quickly become overgrown and painful. Sadly, due to bad care and bad genetics, a lot of Degus in the pet trade are prone to dental issues, so it's really important to take good care of your Degu's teeth and keep a close eye on them. So why do dental issues happen in Degus? First things first is chewing. Chewing and gnaws. So Degus need unlimited hay. This kind of acts like sandpaper for the teeth, especially the back ones with long stem hay, helping them grind them down. They also need safe chews like apple sticks or untreated wood. Without these, the teeth will become too long, and this will cause pain for your Degus, as well as making it really difficult for them to eat. Nutrition and diet. A proper balance of calcium and phosphorus and vitamins helps keep teeth strong and healthy. A poor quality pellet or too many treats can cause problems. You want a calcium to phosphorus ratio of 2:1. So a Degu-specific pellet is really important if you can manage it. And finally, genetics. Sadly, many pet shop Degus come from rodent mills where standards are really low, and genetic problems like dental issues can persist through many generations. This means some Degus are simply prone to dental disease. You can't completely eliminate this, but you can reduce the risk. So what should you look at for your Degu's teeth? Teeth should be bright orange. White teeth are a warning sign of deficiencies, meaning they're not getting the right nutrition. Their incisors, so their front teeth, should be straight and aligned. The top should be slightly longer than the bottom. You want to look out for any misalignment or if they're too long, making sure they can still fully close their mouth. You want to watch out for discharge around the nose or eyes, as this can be a sign that the teeth roots are growing up and causing issues there. Or any difficulty eating. Often difficulty eating will be one of the first signs of real dental issues, and also they can quickly lose weight if this is the problem. You also want to listen to your Degus when they're eating for any grinding sounds or clicking sounds, anything that just doesn't look or sound right. Get it checked by a vet. So some of the common teeth problems are overgrown teeth. This is often because they're not given opportunities to wind them down. These can be very painful and can prevent them eating, and they should be trimmed by a vet. Never try and trim your Degu's teeth yourself. This is extremely dangerous. If you trim them yourself and do it wrong, you can lead to misaligned teeth, pain, and much greater dental issues. Take them to a vet. Moving on from that, you can also get misaligned teeth. This is often caused by genetics, trauma, or disease in the gums. This needs often irregular vet care. They might require teeth trimming to sort of keep them in check every few months. Long term, they might need long-term pain relief and anti-inflammatories. Dental issues can be managed with vet care up to a point. So the earlier you get them to the vet, the better chance of their survival. Degus can also break or lose their teeth. This can happen due to accident or injury, although poor nutrition will make this more likely. Sadly, your Degu can also suffer from problems with the root of the teeth. These can become misaligned and they can grow into nasal cavities, down into the jaw, even up into the brain. This is really serious and it's often untreatable, sadly. The whole thing about whether you can take a Degu's teeth out is varied from vet to vet. Some do recommend it, others say that because their jaws are weaker, this isn't to be done. Talk to your vet about your particular Degu. So if your Degu does have a teeth root problem, often they'll have bulging eyes, they might have bumps along their jaw, blocked nasal passages, facial swelling, they'll have reduced appetite, might lose weight, might be more lethargic. Likelihood they will be in pain with this, so do take them to a vet as soon as you can. They can also get gum infections, ulcers, similar stuff to that. Bottom line, any concerns around your Degu's teeth, get them to a vet. I do apologise if I say about taking them to a vet too many times. This is simply because I want to reinforce that in this video it's not veterinary advice, it is simply education about Degu's. Overall, the key message for this is a proper diet with unlimited hay, safe chews, vet checks if you can, is the best prevention. Sadly, some Degus are genetically predisposed to dental issues and will develop dental problems, but proper care reduces this risk. It is also vital never to breed from a Degu with any dental issues. Any concerns, get them straight to a vet. Never try and care for this at home, as this can make things much worse. Another common issue is diabetes. Degus are naturally prone to diabetes, and this is because their bodies process sugar very differently from owls or other animals. Insulin is actually shown to be far less effective in Degus, and although there is some evidence that they might compensate this by producing more insulin, or the insulin may be active for longer in the blood, research isn't quite sure. In short, although there's far more research that can be done into this, I want to keep this video quite basic and just advice rather than getting into all the science of it. This basically means Degus can't process sugar as well as a lot of animals, and thus they need a really low sugar diet. Some people do say they can handle small amounts of sugars, however, a high sugar diet or genetic predisposition to it can lead to Degus developing diabetes, which long term will be fatal. So the symptoms of diabetes in a Degu is drinking a lot, which is polydysplasia, urinating a lot, polyuria. They will often develop cataracts, so you'll see sort of a white film over their eyes, and they might also have weight loss or be particularly lethargic. Unlike humans, there is no insulin treatment available for Degus, and this is why prevention is so important. The best ways of preventing diabetes in Degus is feed a sugar-free Degu-specific pellet, avoid sugary treats like fruit or yogurt drops, only give other treats occasionally, and give them safe, low sugar or sugar-free options. By controlling their diet, you can dramatically reduce the risk of diabetes. Most people do agree Degus can have small amounts of sugar, but this should be minimal and occasional. Once again, some Degus are sadly genetically predisposed to diabetes, but prevention will reduce it. There are other types of diabetes that sadly can't be prevented. I sadly lost one of my Degus to rapid onset juvenile diabetes. So he was very young, less than a year. I took him to the vet because he was lethargic, and the vet did the blood sugar. It couldn't even be recorded. I straight away felt dreadful because I was like, have I given the Degu diabetes when he's so young? But the vet explained that this was something he used to see a lot in poorly bred Degus. This was a rescue Degu, not one I'd bred myself. That it's a genetic condition where they develop diabetes very quickly within the first year. This can't be prevented, so it's really important to only breed Degus if you know their genetics, to help reduce this sort of thing. Next up is quite a serious one, and that is respiratory infections. Degus should be breathing silently and non-laboured. If you hear clicking noise, any wheezing or discharge, or they look to be struggling with their breathing, this is often due to a respiratory infection. These infections are extremely serious and can quickly become fatal. They might also be lethargic and have a poor appetite, but often the first signs will be that laboured, noisy breathing. The only treatment is by an exotic vet. Degus might need antibiotics, fluids, and sometimes oxygen therapy. Get them to a vet straight away, even if this is an emergency vet. They go downhill really quickly. To help prevent respiratory infections, avoid dusty bedding. Use safe paper-based or aspen/hemp bedding. Make sure their cages are well ventilated, so tanks are not recommended for Degus, but you also don't want it to be too drafty. And keep the environment clean, regular spot cleaning, regular deep cleanings. Keep these guys clean and healthy. Degus' eyes should be bright and clear. Some possible eye problems are conjunctivitis, so an infection which causes redness or discharge. It can be treated by a vet, but it is quite contagious, so do watch out for it. Cataracts, these are very common in either diabetic or older Degus. So a lot of cataracts are caused by diabetes, so do get your Degu checked out straight away. But they can also just develop with age like humans do. They're not treatable, the cataracts, but Degus can live happy, healthy lives, even with the cataracts. Just get them checked out for diabetes. Degus' eyes can also get irritated, and this can be caused by dusty bedding, unclean housing environment, or using dust instead of sand in their baths. Just keep them clean, use Degu appropriate bedding and sand, and that eye should be okay. Trauma. Degus can also suffer eye trauma. This is from fights or accidents, and this can be really serious. I once had a Degu that had a severe eye trauma. I rushed into an emergency vet and they did remove the eye, but sadly he passed away a few days later. Eye trauma is really serious. You can't entirely prevent this. Be careful when bonding Degus. Make sure their houses are safe, but accidents do happen. Again, bottom line is any changes, see a vet. If you notice your Degu has a head tilt, is wobbly, has a bit of loss of balance, this is often due to ear problems. So the causes of ear problems are often ear infections or parasites. So if your Degu has an ear infection, you might notice discharge as well. And you're best to get it seen to a vet so they can be treated. As I said, they can also have parasites such as mites. You might notice these on your Degu's coat. Again, these can be treated by a vet. So they can suffer from ringworm. This causes hair loss and scaly skin in sort of round circles. This is contagious to humans and other small animals. So do be careful if one of your Degus develops ringworm. Be careful with handling them. Isolate them if needed, and get treatment ASAP. They can also suffer from mites. This can be brought in on bedding or new Degus. This leads to sort of redness, itchiness, crusty skin, and you might see the small mites on your Degu. You can get over-the-counter medication for this, but vet treatment is more effective. And just always be careful when using new bedding or meeting new Degus. They can also get worms. This isn't always as obvious as mites because you can't see them. But if you notice weight loss or diarrhea, this could be a sign of worms. And they will need a fecal sample with a vet to diagnose the type of worm and get treatment. Like all small animals, Degus are at risk from parasites, but if you're careful with new additions and making sure their environment is clean and being careful with new bedding, some people freeze their bedding before using it, then this will help reduce the risks. So if you ever find a lump on one of your Degus, this can be really scary. If it's a hard, solid lump, necessarily often tumors, they can be benign, and sometimes these are operable, so the tumor can be removed. And sadly, sometimes they're cancerous, and often with the cancerous tumors, there's very few treatments available for Degus. Because Degus are so small and so specialist, their veterinary care options are often quite limited, sadly. If the lump is soft and squishy, this can often be an abscess, which is caused by infection. So these can be treated by draining and giving antibiotics if caught early. However, if they're left and they burst, this can cause sepsis and can be deadly. Whatever lump you find on your Degu, get them checked out by a vet. Degus are very adventurous, active, curious little creatures, which means accidents can happen. They also require companionship, but Degus can fall out and have arguments, which can also lead to fight and trauma. Some of the common trauma injuries you might see is tail degloving. If the tail is trapped or pulled, the skin can be pulled off, exposing the bone. It can look awful, but it is often survivable. It will need vet care, often need antibiotics just to cover them for infection, and sometimes part of the tail might need to be amputated. Although often the Degu will just chew the bony bit off. Tail degloving is one of the more common injuries you see. Some of my rescue Degus do have short tails from previous tail injuries before I got them. So it does happen, and they can live happy lives without them, but always get them seen by a vet first. They can also have lacerations, so cuts and bites. These are often from fights. Again, they're social creatures. They do need companionship, but that does put them at risk. Just be super careful when bonding new Degus. Like all animals, they can also suffer fractures of their bones. This is often from falls or accidents. Try and ensure your cage is safe with no massive drops. If you do have like large open spaces, put hammocks and stuff in them so that they've got a soft landing if anyone was to fall. And finally, internal bleeding. So again, if they have any accidents or if they get into nasty fights, this can cause internal injuries and internal bleedings. This is very serious. It can be fatal really quickly. So it'll often be shown as like them being lethargic or any swelling, especially around the abdomen. Again, they need emergency vet care if this happens. Degus have very little blood, so any bleeding is really bad. So some things you can do to reduce the risk of accidents and trauma is proper handling. Make sure you handle them securely. Try and minimize the amount you're carrying them around in case they jump and fall. Don't pick them up by their tails ever. Ensure their cage is safe with lots of platforms and hammocks so they can't fall too much. And be really careful when adding in new members to your gang. And always just monitor for any signs of fights or falling out. Degus can death ball, where they basically lock together in sort of a bullfight. And this will often end in very serious injury or death. So just be so careful. Bumblefoot is an issue experienced by many small little critters. And this basically happens when they're kept on wire floors. This then leads to infection, redness, and swelling of the feet pads. This is really painful and can take a long time to heal. They'll need antibiotics, pain relief, sometimes creams. Best way to reduce this risk is by making sure they're not kept on wire flooring, easily covered with cardboard or other materials. Just protect their little soft feet. You've got to think, would you want to be walking around on wire all the time? Your feet would get really sore and irritated. So just don't do it for your Degus. Degus do have sensitive little tummies. They do require specialist nutrition. So some gastric/tummy issues your Degu might face: diarrhea. So I don't think I need to explain what this is. Most people know. But this can be caused by sudden diet changes, poor hygiene, or infection. Degu poop should be small and solid. They do poop a lot, that is okay. But any loose, watery poops or sort of mushy poops can be a bad sign, so do get that seen too. If they're pooping too little, this can be constipation, which can be due to dehydration. So making sure they have plenty of fresh water is essential. Or it can also be due to illness. It can be caused sort of abdominal issues, so do get that seen too. Degus can also suffer from bloating. So this is often a build-up of gas in their abdomen. This can be due to too much fresh foods or underlying health issues. To reduce the risk of gastric issues, keep diets consistent and balanced. Any issues, get them checked out by a vet. Degus are beautiful little creatures and they should have beautiful clean coats. Although aging Degus may develop thinner, patchy coats, young Degus shouldn't. Young Degus might lose their coats for various other medical conditions. This might be due to over-grooming, either by themselves or their cage mates, and this can be a sign of stress. The hair loss might also be due to diet deficiencies or parasites, which we mentioned in other sections. Degus are really sensitive to temperature. Anything above 25 degrees Celsius, or I believe that's the same as 7 degrees Fahrenheit, can put them at risk of heat stroke, which can be fatal. Signs might include being lethargic, lying flat, or difficult breathing. I said this can be fatal very quickly, so prevention is key. You need to keep them out of direct sunlight. Always provide fresh water. And in the summer, when it is hot, use ceramic tiles or frozen water bottles to keep them cool. And just always monitor your Degus environment. You also don't want it to be too cold, so just try and keep them a nice, warm, stable, comfortable temperature. Like everyone, Degus will sadly get older and they might develop different health issues as they age. So older Degus are at high risk of arthritis, so inflammation around their joints. This can cause pain and stiffness. This isn't really treatable, but like with humans, it can be managed with pain relief. So anti-inflammatories are often used, and also cage adjustments, so making sure they have lots of ramps and easy ways to get about. Sadly, they can also suffer from strokes. These happen very suddenly. There's little that can be done to prevent them or predict them. Small strokes, sometimes a Degu can recover from, but major strokes often result either in death very quickly or such a poor quality of life that sometimes it is kinder to put them to sleep. You know your Degu and you know what's right for them. I've had Degus which have had small strokes and have lived, and I've had Degus which have sadly had large strokes and haven't survived. As a Degu age, it can be really hard to manage their health and to know what's right for them, but it is a really important part of being a pet owner. So as I said, you should not be breeding your Degus unless you are experienced, unless you know their genetics, unless you've done a lot of research. There are risks and complications with pregnancy in Degus. So they can have difficulty during birth, which is called dystocia, and this can basically mean that they can't deliver successfully. It is often life-threatening to both the mum and the pups. Often happens if the female that is bred is too young, too old, or underweight, just isn't healthy to breed from. As I said, this can be fatal, and best way to avoid this is don't breed your Degus. During pregnancy, they can also suffer from toxemia, and this is a really dangerous problem linked to poor diet or stress during pregnancy, and again can be fatal for both mum and pups. Degus can also suffer from womb infections. Even if you don't breed them, Degus can suffer from womb infections, which again need to be seen by a vet. It's very rare to spay a Degu in terms of taking the womb out, and this is only done if they've got a severe wound problem. Male Degus can suffer from a lovely condition, which is prolapsed penis, when they stick their penis out and it doesn't retract properly. This can cause pain and can be an infection risk. It needs vet care. The vet can get it back in, but this should be done by vet. Overall, reproductive issues can be minimized or eliminated by responsible breeding and not breeding unless you know your genetics of your Degus and have done a lot of research and are very experienced. There are loads of Degus and rescues, so let's focus on them. I myself have had a few litters. My first two were an accidental litter when I was very naive and new to Degus and didn't check all my Degu sex. And then I had a couple more litters when two of my rescue Degus came in pregnant. Pregnancy in Degus is really stressful and best avoided. If your male Degus have issues with other male Degus, you can in some circumstances get them castrated and mix them with females, but never actively mix males and females because it will end with babies. So there are a few other conditions that they can suffer from, which we're not going to go into such great detail in because we can't really cover absolutely everything, but we'll just cover a few quickly. Liver disease. So the liver is sensitive in Degus, and a diet too high in fat can cause liver issues. Signs of this might be excessive drinking, weight loss, lethargic, or poor coat condition. Sadly, not a lot can be done for liver disease in Degus, so prevention is key. Avoid fatty foods like nuts and seeds, and stick to a proper Degu diet. As well as liver issues, Degus can suffer from kidney disease. Sometimes this can be due to old age or cancer or chronic illness. Kidneys are sensitive little organs and will often be the first to go if there's other problems. Signs of kidney disease might be increased thirst and urination, weight loss, lethargic, and a reduced appetite. Treatment is really limited, but supportive care and careful management can sometimes help with quality of life for a little bit. Neurological problems. So we've mentioned strokes, but Degus might also face other neurological issues such as tremors, seizures, or just be acting a bit oddly. This can be caused by age or genetics. I've luckily not had any of my Degus have a seizure, but I did have a rabbit had a seizure. It was all far to rush to the vet. Luckily, she survived, but it can happen in all small animals. Sometimes age, genetics, or trauma can lead to neurological issues. They can have a traumatic brain injury. But by creating a safe and stress-free environment, this can reduce the risk. I said some Degus might have neurological conditions and with adapted life might have a good quality of life. It's really dependent on your Degu. Cancer. So like a lot of small animals or any animal at all, Degus can develop cancer. And because of their fast metabolism, cancers can develop really quickly. Often by the time the cancer is noticed, maybe due to a lump or tumor, it's often really advanced. And sadly, treatment is really limited. Sometimes quality of life can be maintained for a little bit with pain relief and comfort care. But often when a Degu develops cancer, at some point the decision will have to be made to put them to sleep, which is, again, awful. I've had to do it several times as a pet owner for various reasons. It never gets easier, but it is something you have to be prepared to do as an animal owner. With kidney disease, liver disease, neurological issues, cancers, these are things that can affect all small animals. And sadly, in a lot of the cases, there's not a lot of treatment. It is just supportive and comfort care. A balanced diet, low stress, and good care can help reduce the risk of these. So I could go on and on about the health issues in Degus, but I feel like we've covered the most common ones. Drop me a comment down below if you think of any that I've missed. Again, this is not veterinary advice. It is simply an educational video about some issues you might face and some things to look out for. Always seek veterinary advice. So I thought I'd end the video with some top tips for healthy Degus. So feed a proper diet, provide hay and other chewing opportunities, keep your cage clean, spacious, well ventilated, avoid wire flooring, offer lots of enrichment, never breed without knowing your Degu genetics, having done a lot of research and be experienced. Do regular health checks yourself. Catching these issues earlier can make a massive difference. And of course, once again, any concerns, seek an exotic vet's advice. You should register with an exotic vet as soon as you get your Degus, so that you know you've got that expertise there. So there you have it, the most common health conditions in Degus and some tips on how to prevent this. I adore my Degus. Sadly, because I've had many of them and a lot of them have been from poor conditions, I have experienced so many Degu health issues. Especially now that a lot of mine are getting older, we are hitting some issues, which is why I thought I'd do this video now. So as always, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Drop a comment for any advice you've got or any ideas you'd like for future videos. If you do love Degus like I do, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. I love sharing my Degus and I hope you enjoy seeing them. Bye!